In topic 1.1, we are going to be learning how to identify and model points, lines, and planes, and identify intersecting lines and planes. The focus is points, lines, and planes. So in geometry, a point is a location that has neither shape or size. Here we have an example of point A. When you're naming your point, you use a capital letter. So when you would name this point, you would call it point and then a capital A. A line is made up of points with no thickness or width. Anytime you have 2 points, there's a line that can go through those 2 points. So here, line M goes through points P and Q. And there's several ways you can name these. One of them is you can say line M with a lowercase italic looking M. You can also use 2 points on a line to name a line. So you could say line PQ. You just have to have the line symbol on top. You could also call it line QP with a line symbol on top. So it's okay to use 2 letters to name a line as long as you have the line symbol above. Now later we're going to learn that there's also something called a line segment. If you have a line segment, then it's just from one point to another. It doesn't have the arrows. And then you'll also learn about a ray. A ray is a line that goes in only one direction. So the arrow goes to only one side. A plane is a flat surface that's made up of points. You need to have at least 3 points on a plane to name it using points. So here we have plane K, and you can name that plane with a italic K but capitalized. Another way to name it is to use at least 3 points on the plane, but there has to be 3. So we could name this plane BDC. If we're using those 3 letters, you could also call it plane CBD, and so on. Any way that you want to put those 3 letters will work. Now, examples of points in the real world would be like a spot, like a location on a map. Maybe a fly on the ceiling, anything like that. A line could be like a street on a map. Anything that goes from one point to another. A plane could be like your ceiling in your house. So planes are just flat surfaces. It could be the table that you're working on, etc. Collinear are points that lie on the same line. So if we look at the picture above, line P and Q are on the same line. So P and Q are collinear. If you look at the plane above, coplanar means points that lie on the same line. So B, D, and C are coplanar. We're going to use this figure in example 1 to answer the following questions. So A is asking us to answer a line that contains point W. So point W is here. If you look at that, that's on this line right here, which is line N. Now remember, there's different ways to name lines. You can also name lines using at least 2 points on that line. So 2 points on that line could be like V and W. And you would put the little line symbol on top. We could also call it X, Y. Any 2 points that are on line N can be used to name that line. A plane containing point X. When we look at point X, it's here. And it is on plane P. But remember, you can also name a plane using at least 3 points on the plane. The only thing is the points can't all be on the same line. That's a rule. So here, when you're naming a plane, the 3 points cannot be all on the same line. So I can't say VWX because those are on the same line. But I can say like plane VWZ because VW and Z are all on that plane, but not on the same line. So basically, I could use any of the points that are on the line with point Z. I could also call it plane XYZ. I just can't use point T because point T is not on the plane. In this lesson, we're also learning about the intersections of lines and planes. So when you have an intersection, it's a point where two lines cross, or a line where two planes cross. Sorry, I misspelled 2 there. It should be 2. So here, if you look at this first example, P is the intersection of lines L and M. But if you look at the example of the planes, planes A and B actually intersect at line R. In example 4, we're going to be interpreting the drawing. So A says how many planes are in the figure. So planes, you would count all the flat surfaces. Now, I do want to mention this little pentagon on the bottom is not its own plane. So basically, plane X contains this little pentagon down here. So you wouldn't count those as 2 separate planes. They're part of the same plane. So I would count that as 1. And then if we go around our shape that's sticking up, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sides. So that one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going around. And then the flat surface on the bottom only counts as 1. So that would be the 6th plane. Remember, your planes are your flat surfaces. Name 3 points that are collinear. So we want 3 points that are on the same line. So the only 3 points I see here that are on the same line are J, K, and D. The rest have about 2 points per line, but not 3. C wants us to name the intersection of plane HDG with plane X. So plane HDG would be this one right here. So this flat surface that's in the front. And it wants to know where that intersects with plane X, which is the flat surface that's on the bottom. So that would be what they have in common, or the line where they intersect. So I'm going to look for a common line there. So it's actually going to be HG, because if you look at HG, HG is going to cross through plane X, but it's also the bottom of plane HDG. So this would be line HG. Remember, planes intersect at a line. D wants to know at what points do LM and EF intersect. So LM and EF, if we look at EF and LM, those do not intersect. So we look at LM and EF. I'm going to highlight those in another color. Here we have LM. EF would be right here. Those are not going to intersect because E and F finishes. They don't. It's not like a line that continues going forever and ever. Question 4a wants to know if points E, D, F, and G are coplanar. So are E, D, F, and G coplanar? So I'm going to erase a little bit of what I've done here. And we're going to check if E, D, F, and G are coplanar. So we have E, D, F, and G. So if you look, E, D, and F are part of the same triangle there, G is part of the same triangle as D, F, and G. But if you look at G and E, they're only part of the bottom pentagon. So all 4 of those points aren't part of the same side of that figure. So since all 4 are not part of the same side, then they're not coplanar. For B wants to know at what point or in what line do planes JDH, JDE, and EDF intersect. So I'm going to erase again here so we can see. JDH would be this one right here. JDE would be the back left, and EDF would be the back right. All of those, if you're looking at them, intersect at point D. So point D is the point that they have in common. So when you do your practice for 1-1, it's going to be similar to this. This is some of the vocabulary you're going to see. Since it's vocabulary, if you need to go back and rewatch the video or view the notes, make sure you do so.